You got your deck, you got your budget, now all you need is a competitive list without breaking the bank. What's up YouTube, Dal here from Zephyr War Games, and today, as promised, I am going to bring you a budget version of the Albaz structure deck. So you can get all of this you see in front of you, plus one additional engine that will help you compete for the low price of about $100, which equals around about 77 Great British pounds. And obviously the idea behind that is that also includes the structure deck. So you're only going to be investing at least another 70-ish odd pounds, or if you're going for the cheaper version that I'll show you throughout, you'll be investing about an additional £20 to maybe £50 at most, and this deck will be able to compete. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe, as I will also be bringing you combos at the end of this video as well, very basic, to show you what each of the engines provide to the deck and what the deck can do itself. With all of that out of the way, let's get started. So I'm going to be laying this out a little bit differently from previous videos because I'm going to show you everything that is included within the structure deck and what we are using. And you'll see that we are actually using a very decent amount of the structure deck as well, which is really important because we want to make sure that and pretty much show you that you're getting the most value out of this deck. So we're using just over 50% of your main deck being the stuff you get in the structure deck, not to even include the extra deck and side deck. So, zooming this out a little bit, we are playing triple Fallen of Albaz. Now, this will adapt depending on what additional engine you put in, but Fallen of Albaz is pretty much the heart and soul of the deck. The reason we're playing 3 of it is because I'm going to show you a stack of about 9 cards that I feel should definitely go into the build, no matter what engine you choose to add to it, which makes this more consistent. The biggest kind of dilemma you're going to have with this deck is whether you design it to go first or go second. Personally, I'm probably going to design it to go first, but then have an entire side deck engine that switches it to go second, because it has the ability to do both pretty well. We've then got the one Albion, the Shrouded Dragon. Again, this one gives you a free, I say boss monster, but it's treated as Albaz on the field or in the graveyard. And then if it is in the hand or the graveyard, you get to use one of the following effects to get an additional effect from it. So you get to send a Fallen of Albaz or branded spell or trap from your deck to the hand, from the deck to the grave or the hand to the grave, and you get to apply the following effects. If you sent from the hand, you get to special summon this card. If you sent from the deck, you get to place this card on the bottom of the deck and draw 1 card. So that, as long as you place this card from your hand. So it basically lets you recycle, put it to the bottom, get a free draw, and then you can play around with it that way. We've then got 2 of the brand new Spring Guns kit. Now this is basically a pseudo replacement for something like Aluba, and until we get the Aluba reprint, which is possibly going to be short printed anyway, you're still going to utilize this as much as you can. So if you have a fusion monster that specifically lists Fallen of Albaz as material on the field or in the graveyard, you can special summon this card from the hand. If it is normal or special, you get to add from your hand one of your branded spells or traps that is banished or in your deck or in the graveyard, then place 1 card from your hand onto the bottom of the deck. You can only use each effect once per turn. So this is a really nice kind of play that you just special summon it for free. It will then be utilized for fusion material because you can't do anything else when you activate branded fusion, which is really good with the other engines because it will provide different usabilities because it is a dark. And it basically lets you get to your branded fusion, but it can also get to your branded retribution as well, which was originally called, I think it was like Condemnation. You've also got branded Lost, which was branded Paradise. So it gives you a lot of access to some of the really good cards we got in the structure deck. We're then playing 2 Keeper of Dragon Magic. Now, Albaz is something that you don't really want to normal summon unless you're going to be going second. You're going to be using it as fusion material from the deck. So Keeper of Dragon Magic is actually the pseudo opposite for that, and you want this to be your normal summon. Again, it is a budget option in comparison to some of your other cards you play, and like I said, when I show you the endings, you'll see the other normal summons that take its place. But the idea behind this is if it is normal or special, you get to discard a card and then add a poly-normal spell or fusion normal spell card from your deck to the hand. Luckily, branded fusion is a normal spell, so this is another way to get to branded fusion, which is your most important card in the deck. Off the back of that as well, you do have the ability to target one fusion, reveal a fusion monster from your extra deck, target a material listed on it in your graveyard, and special summon it in face down defense position. The reason that is important is because it can basically get you Albaz back from the grave. Yes, it puts it face down, but it is then just free material, which basically means if you were to run a normal poly or a greater poly or something like that, super poly, you can use it and go from there. So it lets you regain a bit of resource. And like I said, when I show you the rest of the engines, gaining back that resource to the board is actually really, really helpful. We've then got the one Merry Carrier. Now, arguably you could play this at 2 if you want to, but the idea behind this is when your opponent activates a monster effect while you control a fusion monster that mentions Fallen of Albaz as material, get a quick effect. You can send this card from the hand or face-up field to the graveyard to negate that effect. If it is banished, you get to add from your deck to the hand one Fallen of Albaz or monster that mentions it except itself. So again, very, very important because there are a lot of cards that actually mention Fallen of Albaz in its text. It's specifically considering that the lore has risen from Rise of the Duelist all the way up till now. So you've got Dogmatikas, you've also got Sword Souls, you've got Despias, you name it, it's covered. But the way you can get to this very, very easily is part of the... and also with the Spring Gun kit as well, is part of the effect of Mirror Jade Dragon or anything else that can send from the extra deck to the graveyard. You've got the Brigade, and this lets you add or special summon a Tri-Brigade if it was in the graveyard this turn. So this will let you add this or special summon it. You're probably going to add it because then it counts as another hand trap. Speaking of hand traps, thanks to this deck, you did get triple Ghost Ogre and triple Effect Veiler. So to me, an absolute must. They are lights, which is really, really important for the branded fusion into Albion play. This one right here. And Albion is your 1-card play to get you into the Mirror Jade Dragon off of the back of branded fusion as well. So you kind of want to max out on these. They came in the structure there. You want to use as much as you possibly can. And these are actually not bad hand traps to have. The only thing that would have been better would be to get like a... Ash Blossom, which wasn't going to happen, but these are both incredibly powerful with this format as well. Carrying on, of course, you've got triple branded fusion. This card is just absolutely bonkers nuts. So fusion summon a fusion monster that mentions Fallen of Albaz as material from the extra deck using 2 monsters from your hand, deck, or field as fusion material. You cannot special summon monsters for the extra deck except fusion monsters the turn you activate this, and you can only activate 1 branded fusion per turn. So it's basically an upgraded Shaddoll fusion because it lets you use your deck regardless. Now it is going to lose out hard to Ash Blossom, but that's when you play other cards like this to try to get to it, or you're going to be baiting your opponent out, and that's where the other engines come in, because the other engines come into play in order for you to dodge, to make sure that this is consistently fulfilled, and still be able to produce a board, rather than this gets ashed, you go call, pass, and then lose. So incredibly powerful spell card. It's going to be utilised in pretty much all decks right now. A lot of people are going to consider sending this with... Verti Anaconda. Now keep in mind, when you send it off of Verti Anaconda, the only thing you're summoning is the Mirror Jade Dragon. So, very, very specific, and it will require you to use your hand, deck, or field of an extra monster. So sometimes what you do is you'll use Verti Anaconda, pay 2,000, send this, and then you'll probably use Verti Anaconda, and then send an Albaz from the deck to the graveyard, and that will give you the Mirror Jade Dragon. We've then got 2 branded Lost. Now this card is actually even more important when you put other engines into this deck. So the activation of your cards and effects that include an effect to fusion summon a fusion monster cannot be negated. So it's exactly like Magical Meltdown. Your opponent cannot judgment your fusion summons while this is face up on the field. If they do, they'll be paying the life points, and then you'll still be able to play your plays anyway. Also, your opponent cannot activate a card or effects when a monster is fusion summoned. Now, this is a very, very thin line, and what this means is basically, if you were to play Shaddolls in this and you had branded Lost on the board, when you summon out Construct, you use Construct's effect to Foolish Burial, your opponent cannot respond to that effect because it activates on summon. It's also the same, and this is something you're going to be seeing going forward, is with Phoenix Enforcer, if they summon Phoenix Enforcer and they go on summon, use Phoenix Enforcer's effect to destroy 2 cards, you can't respond because it is fusion summoned. It is within that window of a fusion summon. It's the exact same as Magical Meltdown, so your opponent doesn't get that option to respond, which is really annoying, but it makes this card incredibly powerful, especially if you combo this with Magical Meltdown, as then you've got like double protection from all your fusion summon plays and effects on summon. In addition, if you fusion summon a fusion monster, you get to add a Fallen of Albaz or monster that mentions it from your deck to the hand, and you can only use this effect once per turn. Now, this is probably the loophole, is when a monster is fusion summoned this way, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response. So as long as you do the chain block correctly, and this is like Chain Link 1, you might be able to protect it as well. So Really, really cool. And the last two cards we play from the structure is the one Called by the Grave and the one Branded Retribution. So Retribution is the counter trap. When a spell, trap, or monster effect is activated that includes an effect that special summons a monster or monsters, return to the extra deck one face-up fusion monster you control, or 2 fusion monsters in your graveyard that mention Fallen of Albaz as material. And if you do, negate the activation. And if you do that, destroy the card. You can banish this card from the graveyard to target one branded spell or trap in your graveyard, accept itself and add it to the hand. You can only use one branded Retribution effect per turn, and only once that turn, which means basically you can't activate it and then banish it in the same turn. The artwork is awesome. It's like Dramaturge fighting Irish Sword Soul, which was originally Fleur de Lis, I believe, and that is Maximus, which is very, very important for the couple of engines that I'm going to show you in a minute. So this is what we're using for the main deck. As you can see, it's like 22 cards. So straight away, you've got a very nice chunk. And this is going to be your staple basis, in my opinion. Like, you might cut one Albaz. You might cut the Keeper of Dragon Magics, depending on what your normal summon is going to consist of. Now, the first stack of cards, or the first engine that I'm going to show you, is basically cards that I think should be going in the deck regardless. And I'll show you the cards we're going to add to the extra deck in one go at the end. So I think you should definitely be playing Super Poly. Now this is where the money starts coming into it, so I'm going to put a tally of the additional cost to the side here for you as well. Super Polys, I saw a playset on eBay for about £7, so it's definitely worth picking up if you don't already have it. The reason this is so good is not only can it help extend your plays further forward, but it can also help disrupt and break your opponent's board. This is going to see huge amounts of play in definitely this weekend when everyone is going to be playing the Structure Deck event, but it's also going to be playing even more as the meta starts to define itself, and then it kind of brings you back down to the same level. Like when your opponent is going, right, okay, well, I'm going to summon out Dragoon, I'm going to summon out DPE, I'm going to summon out Mirror Jade, and you're sitting there like, cool. Unless they've put Secret Village of the Spellcasters, you're going to go, cool, draw, Super Poly, get rid of maybe all 3 if you've got the triple-headed Predator Plant, or you're going to get rid of at least 2, which is really, really important. A spicy tech, massive shout out to Kyron on this one, is Master Change 2. The reason this is so good is it has so much synergy with everything else in the deck as well, and it's actually really, really good at dodging Imperms and Veilers. And why that is so good is for the pure fact that if you were to special summon down Kit, or heck, even normal summon it, and your opponent goes, you go effect to add and then put one back, and your opponent goes, no, I'm going to Veiler that, you go chain Master Change 2, tag this out, go into a Dark Claw, which you will be adding to your extra deck because it's only 99p, and these are only 99p. You're then going to get the draw, the add, and then the put back off of this, and then you'll get a Dark Claw on the board as well, which, especially in a mirror match, is going to be incredibly painful because it means Branded Fusion is then going to start going, right, well, they're all getting banished now. I've not got the ability of using Albion. I'm going to have to use Lubellion. And then that kind of restricts their plays a little bit more as well. So Master Change 2, incredible. I think it's definitely a 1, if not a 2 of in the deck, and then you probably put it into the side if you feel that you're going to build this going second. Q1 as well, it can also be used during the battle phase, so it is a way of getting you that extra bit of damage on board, so it can help going second as well. Then the final card is Fusion Deployment. Now this is like £3, like £2.25 I believe I found it for a playset. So incredibly powerful. The reason this is so good is it gets you special summon Albaz from the deck. And as you all know, when Albaz is normal or special, you can discard a card to fuse using itself and one monster your opponent controls. So this is really good going second because it doesn't use your normal summon. You activate this, they have to Ash Blossom it. Otherwise, you're just going to bring out Albaz, and then if you've got a Branded Paradise or anything like that, they can't negate the Albaz effect to Fusion Summon, which is really, really important as well, because that will then open up the door for pretty much anything. So like if your opponent's got a monster summon from the extra deck, you can go into Mirror Jade. If they've got a light monster, you can go into Albion. If they've got a dark monster, or even Albaz himself, you can go into Lubellion. So it just opens up the door. So a level 8 or higher monster, and then of course you've got a monster with 2500 or more attack. It's crazy. And then spicy enough, Albaz says just a fusion monster. So if they were to have a Dark Magician on the board, you can actually fuse into your own Dragoon if you had it. That is. So and this is the budget version, so you're not gonna. But still really, really good. Again, this can be cut to 2 if you want to put your Albaz to 2 and this to 3. This would be more prominent going second, which is why you're probably going to cut it down and go like that. And it probably works out just as well. And like I said, playset is like £2 here, playset £3 here, and then £7 there. So not really breaking the bank on those. And that is your first real investment into the deck. The extra deck changes or the extra deck additions would just be 2 more additional Super Poly targets, which I think I'm already going to put in anyway, and then 1 or 2 Dark Claw, which again 99p here, like 50p on a Mud Swamp and 50p on a common Dracostapelio, which I think is the best Super Poly target because it requires a Fusion Monster and a Dark Monster, so you're probably going to be using this a lot more. And Starving Venom is great as well, but it is like a £4 addition. Okay, so now I'm going to show you, I'm trying to think the best way to do this. I'm going to show you the extra deck first, and then I'll start showing you the engines, because the engines will start to adapt the extra deck or add to the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we are playing double Mirror Jade Ice Dragons, 2 Albions, 1 Lubellion, 1 Brigade, 1 Titaniclad, and 1 Sprind. Now, obviously, this is your Spring Gun Searcher, so your Spring Gun kit. This is your Dogmatikas or Albaz. This is Tri-Brigade or Albaz. And then Lubellion is discard 1 to spin the materials back from Banished, Field, or Grave to the extra deck to special summon a Fusion Monster. This one is Banish the materials to special summon a Fusion Monster. And this one is send a card that lists Fallen of Albaz from your extra deck to the graveyard to banish 1 card your opponent controls. You can only use this effect one every 2 turns. So if you use it during your turn, you can't use it during your opponent's, and vice versa. As your main deck in Super Poly, you would definitely be putting in Mud Dragon in a Swamp and Predaplant Dracostapelio. And then because of Marsh Change, you're going to be playing 1, if not 2 Dark Claw. Again, 99p. I'll put a total price at the end of each different version of the deck as well, so you know where you're looking at. Now, I know this isn't a full extra deck, so some of these is going to be adapted. Like the Spring is probably the one you'll be cutting the most, because you don't really want to be relying on the end phase of the Spring Guns, but that's kind of how it is. Okay, so now onto the engines. I hope this doesn't confuse you too much, but each of the engines are the remaining 9 to 10 cards. So it takes you from 40 cards to 41 cards or anything like that. So the previous cards I've shown you add up to 31 cards. So the remaining 9 cards are going to be as follows. Now, if you want to be going second or you want to try and control going first, the cheapest option you can get is Shaddolls. Now, why that is cheap is you play 1 Hedgehog, 1 Beast, 1 Dragon. They all add up to about 50p each, 20p on a Hog. Dragon's like £1 on his own, and then Beast as well. So these are all really, really cheap. They've had like 3 or 4 prints. Should be easy to get. You've then got the 1 Genius. Now, this is just personal preference because of the combo that I'll show you at the end. You're actually going to utilize Fossil Fusion and Weathering Soldier. So Weathering Soldier is like a £1 addition, and this is a really good going second combo because 1 card gives you a Shekhanaga Negate, but it also can lead you into a Shekhanaga Negate and a Search. You've got a back row pop, you've got a draw, or you've got an additional negate. So it gives you a lot of plays, and it also gives you the Fossil Fusion, which can help get you into the Fossil King. So I'll show you all the engines in one go. So we'll be playing triple Shaddoll Fusion. This is the most expensive card in the Shaddoll Fusion package. It kind of goes for like a super rare is like £3 a copy. I think I found a place it for about £8, so it's definitely worth picking up if you don't have already. And the reason this is so good is going second, what you'll do is you'll either try to bait out your opponent, and then you've got 2 1-card power play fusion spells that don't even conduct your normal summon. So you'd activate Shaddoll Fusion, you can send Hog and Weathering Soldier, you make Shekhanaga. Hog would then search you either Beast, Dragon, or Genius. And what that does is that means that Shekhanaga's Negate is online, protecting you from Nibiru's, protecting you from Ash Blossoms as well. And then it means you can activate Branded Fusion, send in your material to get you into Albion. Albion then has a host of materials it can start playing around with. They can either get him into a Mirror Jade or it can start playing around with other bits as well. And that means that when you activate the Shekhanaga effect, you're either going to get a draw, a back row pop, or an additional negate on the board. Obviously, the Weathering Soldier would search you out the Fossil Fusion, and this one, again, lets you use the materials in the graveyard. So you're basically replacing your Shaddoll Fusion with another 1-card power play, which is going to ultimately, once you put Albion in the graveyard, or once you put a higher level monster in the graveyard like Beast, you're going to be able to utilize the Skull King. Let me show you first. Skull King needs a level 7 or higher, but with Fossil Fusion, you can use either Graveyard, which is really, really cool. And he basically becomes a 2800 beta that can give you additional effects as well. And then you got the 1 El Shaddoll Fusion. So for those times when you put like a construct to the graveyard or you put anything else to the graveyard, you can loop it around and go from there. For the Shaddoll Fusion monsters, obviously the 1 Shekhanaga is part of the power play. And this is mainly for going second, keep in mind as well. You got the 1 App Cologne, you got double Winder, but this can easily be 1 Winder if you want it to be as well. The 1 Construct, and then I've gone with the 1 Fossil Warrior. Skull King, so it must be fusion someone with Fossil Fusion, and it can make a second attack during each battle phase. If it attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage, and during your opponent's turn, quick effect, target one monster in your opponent's graveyard, discard one card, and if you do, special summon that monster to your field. So really, really cool. It lets you recycle their graveyard as well, and it's just during your opponent's turn, so you can basically go draw phase, quick effect, bring back their DPE, which is insane. And then the final one, because you've got a bit more money to spend, because this is like £2 here, £1 here, £2 on each of these, £1 there, £1 there. Fossil Fusion's like £2, Shaddoll Fusion's like 50p. And then of course you've got your Starving Venom is like £4 to £5. So it's like an additional super point target that you can add to the deck and kind of go from there. So that's your Shaddoll package. I'll put the total price of it by the side here as we've added up. And then I'll also show you at the end the price of each package that you're adding to it. Package number 2. I should also mention that within this engine as well, because it shares a couple of the same components as Dogmatika's, you would also put in Shaddoll Schism as well. So that's really, really good because you're putting a load of darks in the grave, and then obviously you'll put in additional stuff in the graveyard as well that can help give you your Shaddolls. So the next engine, which is like the second, if not the most expensive engine, is a Dogmatika engine. So we've got with 2 Ecclesias, which sit about £8 each. The one Maximus, which is like £1.50. The one Fleur de Lis, which you get within the structure deck. 2 Nadir Servant. I showed you the other day, some guy had pairs of them on for like £15. So to me, that's definitely worth getting. And then we went with the 1 Punishment, the 1 Schism, and then the 1 additional extra deck you'd have to pay on top of the Shaddolls is the 1 Tis, which is the most expensive. It's like £10 a copy. Might have even gone up thanks to the YCS Charlotte. But it's kind of a card that you don't necessarily have to have. And if you don't have this, you don't have Punishment. And this is obviously the smallest engine of all of them. So that's where you could start bumping up your putting Kaijus or anything else like that. As a side note as well, you would also need to run 1 Construct, double Winder, and the 1 App Cologne. You could cut the Construct if you wanted to, but the good thing about this is it means that you don't actually lose the discard that you send when you search out Schism. So again, I'll show you the 1 card combo at the end because the 1 card is Nadir. And you'll see that in all of these engines, Shaddoll Fusion, Nadir Servant, and in the final one, Alistair the Invoker or Magical Meltdown, the 1 card power plays is basically what we're going for. We're going for that ability where if we go first or we go second, we've got cards that can bait our opponent out, or we've got cards that are able to basically break our opponent down a little bit as well in order to kind of get where we need to go. So the final engine, again, this pretty much serves the same cost as Dogmatika's because you've got an £8, £7 to £8 on each Alistair. You've then got £3 on a light Hex Seal. The reason this is important is because this can then become any material. So this can be substituted for any material for your fusion summons. So it can become Albaz, it can become, like I think it needs to become a card that is specifically listed on it. No, because it just says you can substitute this card for any 1 fusion material monster. So this will basically unlock the ability to become like Fallen of Albaz for anything else, but then it can also become, I believe, a Shaddoll monster and kind of go from there. You've then got your 2 Invocations, these sit at about £4 each, and then you've got your Magical Meltdowns again, these sit at about £4 each, and you can probably just get a Terraforming off of a friend. The best thing about the Magical Meltdown and this particular engine is such, is that this is your normal summon. Like, this highly improves your normal summon of the Keeper of Dragon Magic. And then obviously you've got Ash Bait for your Terraforming, your Magical Meltdown, and then Alistair as well. So like all 3 of those, just using 1 card, baits out Ash's Imperms and Veilers. And your opponent will be like, oh, he's playing Invoked. And as we know, all good Invoke players open up Invocation. The only issue with this is you don't have the ability to go into Link monsters, so you need to be getting him into the graveyard other ways, which is amazingly where Mask Change 2 comes in. Because just imagine this, right? Normal summon Alistair, and your opponent goes, okay, Veiler. And you go, chain Mask Change 2, discard, well, they've already Veilered, so let's say Imperm. Let's make it harder on ourselves. They go Imperm, you go, cool, chain Mask Change 2, put a light in the graveyard. Turn this into Darklaw. And they go, right, okay, cool. You've then got Invocation Life because you'll have a light in the graveyard as you discarded it, plus you'll have Alistair. If you don't, you're going to have 2 darks on the board, so that can give you into Kaliga, which is why we also play Kaliga as well. Then you'll end up, your board will be Macabre, Darklaw, all from like 3 cards. And then if you've got a Branded Fusion, if you've got anything else, you're just going to extend your board from there, like a Nadir Servant. It's mad. So for the extra deck, one Agades, which is like £1, Kaliga, again, like £1, and then double Macabres, like £1.50 each. So you can kind of see, again, this little 10 card engine is absolutely mad. And like I've said, I've tried to keep the additional engines down to a minimum so that they do only become a engine. When you look at the Invoked engine, it is your normal summon engine. When you look at the Shaddolls, it is your Go Second engine. And when you look at your Dogmatikas, it is your Win More engine. So they pretty much cover everything you need. Moving on to the side deck before I finish and do the combos. The only cards that we had to add, I'll show you in a minute. But we went with Triple Dark Ruler No More. These came in the structure deck, so nice and easy. Triple Tikaboo, again, this will depend on which particular version you try to play, but these came in the structure deck. If you don't want to play Tikaboo, these can be Kaijus or they can be Warning Points. Why couldn't they be Ice Dragon Prison? I'll never know. And then you've got Triple D Barrier. This is going to be great in the mirror matchup. You flip this, you call Fusion, you're fine, as long as you've already used your Mirror J Dragon or anything like that, and then they can't play and you go from there. And then the cards we've had to add is Triple Forbidden Chalice and Triple Cosmic Cyclone. Cosmic Cyclone is just because you need back row hate in this deck, and then Forbidden Chalice is just because it's a faster Warning Point. £5 a playset, £5 a playset. So again, you're adding £10 to your budget at the end. I'll add this to the totals of each of the decks at the end when I show them to you and kind of go from there. So before I do the combos, let's just kind of tally up everything you're going to be needing for each of the engines on show. So we'll start off with the additional engines. So the additional engines, I'm going to put down Super Poly. You're looking at least about a £10 investment on this, and then you're looking at a £10 investment for your side deck. So that's an additional investment of £20 just for the side deck options. What does that then lead you with? Well, the best kind of option for that to keep within your budget would be the Shaddoll investment, and the Shaddoll investment is only going to be around about £20 to £25. So that keeps you well within your budget. That means after you've already bought the structure decks, you're totaling up about £45 of in total investment. So then £55 of total investment, not including the side deck. So including the side deck and the extra deck, you're up to about a £65 investment in total for the entire deck. We've then, of course, got the Dogmatika package. Now, this is where it gets a little bit more expensive, because when you put in the Dogmatika package, I'm going to use all spells. I think all spells gives me a bit of synergy. At least they're showing the power cards as well. So, obviously, you're already going to have the top line here. That's going to be £10 investment. You're then going to add this line in here, which straight away is about a £30 investment. And then you go into the extra deck, is about a £45 investment. So again, 45 plus 10, you're on a £55 investment. If you want to add the Cosmic Cyclones and the Chalices in, straight away you go from a £45 to a £55 investment, plus the £24 of the structure deck, you're at £79 investment, which puts you, I believe, just at $105. So that's kind of where you're looking at that one. And then, of course, the final engine itself is the Invoked engine. Now, again, keep in mind, you'll have the top engine itself. The top engine itself is a £10 investment. And then you add the Invoked in as well, which kind of brings you to about £40 investment. Add the £10 on top, you're a £50 investment. Add the Cosmic Cyclones and the Chalices, £60 investment, plus the 24 of the structure decks, makes you at a £84 investment for a competitive structure deck or a competitive deck. And then you convert that to about $110. So again, all of the details and all of the numbers will be up on screen for you, so you can kind of go from there. Right, now let's show you the one card power plays that each of these cards can bring you in your structure deck. So we'll start off with the standard power play of what all of these are going to do. So it's going to be, the combos are basically going to be Branded Fusion plus Nadir Servant, Branded Fusion plus Shaddoll Fusion, Branded Fusion plus Alistar or Magical Meltdown. What does it get you? What does it get you? Well, here's the exact answer. Is Branded Fusion is going to do the exact same thing in all of the combos. So this is very, very basic. I will bring you more in-depth combos for everything this can do, but that will be on the full power version. So the base minimum of what you want to do here is you activate Branded Fusion, you send your Fallen of Albaz, and you send a light monster. Now the reason we're sending the light monster is it doesn't require you to have a discard. So that's where it's really, really important. So you use your Branded Fusion, you summon out your Albion, the Branded Dragon, you trigger the effect on summon to banish the light, sorry, not the light, you banish the Albaz, and you banish the Albion, the Branded Dragon, and this will give you your Mirror Jade. So Mirror Jade, that exact play will stay the same, and that's the best thing about this, is if you activate Branded Fusion first, you've already put a light in the graveyard for your Alistair and Macabre plays, so it's a no-brainer. So then what happens when you add the additional cards to it? Well, we'll start off by going first, and we'll start off with using our normal summon of Alistair. Well, you normal summon the Alistair, or activate the Meltdown to search out your Alistair. Alistair is then going to do his standard play and go, you know what, I'm going to add an Invocation. No, you don't get as much value because you can't get him off the board unless you do have something like a Mask Change 2, or you use him as fusion material for something else. You activate the Invocation, you send the Alistair, and you banish the Ghost Ogre, and that will then add to your end board a Macabre. So very basic. It doesn't let you loop back the Alistair, but you still have, you've got a Banish Interruption there, and this will give you a monster for your Macabre already, because you use its effect, it will give you a monster into the hand, Macabre will be good to go. Not to mention you can also add the Tri-Brigade Merry Carrier, which becomes a negate on its own. And then of course you've got the Alistair, and the 3 remaining cards in your hand. So that's option number 1. Obviously you'd probably want a little bit more than just that, but that's a very basic option on there. Option number 2, I'm going to save my favourite to last, which is Shaddoll Fusion. Is after you've done all this, you activate the Dear Servant. You can send any monster from your extra deck. I'm going to be sending, I would be playing App Cologne in this particular version because it's just crazy. So you'd send the App Cologne, you'd add your Ecclesia, and you would add a Schism as well. So really, really important on that one. Once I get to them. Too many piles of cards. So you add your Schism. Keep in mind you'd have to discard a card. So whether you want to discard the Schism now or whether you want to discard something else is entirely up to you. If you discard the Schism, then off of Maximus you have to send Construct to add this back. So we'll do it that way just so we're not adding additional cards to our hand and it does remain 1 card power play. So you special summon down Ecclesia, her effect will go off. This one you want to add Maximus. You're then going to banish the App Cologne to summon down the Maximus. You'll then use Maximus's effect. Now this is where it gets a little bit dodgy in the mirror matches, because your mirror matches, your opponent is probably going to have monsters that they can send. So keep that in mind as well. But what you're going to do here is you can send a mixture of anything you want. So you're going to send Construct because you want to get Shaddoll to the graveyard and add back the Schism. And then you'll also send your Brigade the Glory Dragon. By doing that, what that's going to then add to your board is you've got a Schism with 2 Darks in the graveyard, or a Dark and a Shaddoll, and then you're also going to get to add a Merry Carrier to your hand. So you'd set the Schism, you've got the Merry Carrier, and then you've got 3 more cards to play around with as well. So if they're Veilers or Interruptions or anything like that, you're good to rock and roll. So then you're going to give yourself a Winder. If they put a Dark on the board, you're going to send it as well off the back of the Schism. You've got a card that can't be destroyed by monsters from the extra deck. You've got a 3k booty. You've got a card that will then send one. And basically the idea behind sending one on this during your opponent's turn is it will search you out Albaz in the end phase. You could have also sent Titaniclad, which would have given you Fleur de Ris if you had another discard. So if you didn't send Construct, you'd still need to send Shaddoll, really, to be fair. But yeah, the idea is that's what your board's going to be like. And then my third and final one, and I love this the most. Like, this one's so fun. So we'll rectify all of this. Of course, we've still got the Branded Fusion and the Ghost Ogre in the graveyard. But we're going to activate Shaddoll Fusion. Now, the reason this is so good, but also quite restrictive, is it is only going second. Now, depending on whether you want to negate multiple monsters on the board or if you only want to gain your advantage back in the hand, what you're going to do here is you're going to activate Shaddoll Fusion. You're going to send your Weathering Soldier as your Earth. And my favourite, personally, is sending Hog, because then it guarantees that Shekinaga's on board. It does kind of say to your opponent, they don't have anything if they've sent Hog, so I need to interrupt it now, which is where the Branded Paradise or Meltdown comes into play, should you have it. Where are you, Shekinaga? I've misplaced Shekinaga. But the idea is you'd summon out Shekinaga, you'd trigger the effect of Hog as well, and off of the back of Hog, it will then be down to you on whether or not you add a... I've definitely lost Shekinaga. Off of the back of that, you will then add a Fossil Fusion. Ah, there we go. There we go, Shekinaga. So you summon out Shekinaga, you use Hog's effect. Hog will either add you a Genius for an additional board negate, a Dragon for a back row pop, or Beast for an additional draw. And then Weathering Soldier will add you your Fossil Fusion. Now, this is probably where you might have wanted to go Lubellion instead, because then it would have given you a level 7 or higher monster. Probably going to put Shek in attack because we want to be as aggressive as possible. And we're going to add the Beast just because, you know, free draw. So what you want to do here is you've got materials in the graveyard. Rather than sending Ghost Ogre, this is probably where you'd want to send a higher level monster. So this is where you'd probably want to be going for Fleur de Lis if you main it, or the Kaiju. And again, considering we're going second, that's probably where the Kaiju is going to come into play. So you send the Kaiju down. What that then gives you, you can activate Fossil Fusion. You can send your Thunder Kaiju or banish the Thunder Kaiju and the Weathering Soldier. So you fusion summon one fossil monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials listed from any graveyard, except monsters with a specific graveyard requirement. So keep that in mind. This will then give you the ability. Blah, blah, blah. So if you banish monsters from both graveyard, neither player can target that special summon monsters with monster effects. If a face-up fossil fusion monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, whilst in the graveyard you get to add it back to your hand. Not that's relevant, but it does give you an option anyway. So you will then summon out your Fossil King, as it required one rock monster, which is what Weathering Soldier is, and the Thunder Kaiju. And you've got 3 powerful fusion monsters on the board. Should your opponent negate, you get a draw, and you haven't even normal summoned yet. So if your normal summon was like Alistar, or even if it was an Albaz, then this becomes your free discard that then lets you fuse with the board. So this one gets to attack twice and does piercing. This one is going to be 2600 but can then become a negate, and this one, if you want to use this effect, again, this is where if you don't send the Kaiju, you can use the effect of this, is you send one of your Albazes from the extra deck to banish a card. You're pretty much pushing for game anyway, so you don't mind not using this during your opponent's turn, and then that will ultimately lead you into victory. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. I know this has been a very, very long video, but I wanted to break down all of the possible options for you, give you all of the possible budget variants as well, so you know how much to invest, how much you need to invest, and how much you can just be like, well, I don't need to spend all of my money on the Despia stuff. I can actually wait and build a fairly competitive deck right now with what I have in front of me. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, guys, as absolutely always, stay safe and happy dueling.